Yes, he did. Donnybrook is made possible by the members of 9PBS.
Well, thanks for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Great to have you with us, and we look forward to Dr. Fred Pestello, the president of St. Louis University, for joining us on Next Up on the second half of this program. But first, we'll kick around the issues of the day on this, the last show, I think, for January of 2021. We'll have the news director for the Big 550, KTRS, with us. She's also the co-host of the Jennifer and Wendy Show, Wendy Wiese, along with one of our founders, Mr. Bill McClellan from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, another founder, Mr. Ray Hartmann from the Big 550, KTRS, as well as rawstory.com and the Riverfront Times, and Mr. Alvin, Reid, the pride of Kirkwood, and man, the guy who writes for the St. Louis American, as well as speaking on 590 AM and 97.1 FM News Talk, the Dave Glover Show. Bill McClellan, it's your turn to bat leadoff on this edition, and we want to ask you about a distinction that I don't think many in Missouri really wanted to see, and that is that on Sunday, your paper announced that the state of Missouri is dead last. We are cellar dwellers when it comes to inoculating people, at least as a percentage. As of Sunday, just 3.9% of Missourians got the first in the series of 2 vaccines. And man, that was during the first 6 weeks. At this rate, it'll take us years to get the state inoculated. What the heck is going on?
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of Missourians take pride in this. You know, for years we've been 48th in this and 49th in that, always a bridesmaid, never the bride. And now we've achieved it. We're at the very bottom. And it's, you know, it's been a disaster in a lot of states. But in Missouri, it just goes to show that there's no accountability. I mean, Governor Parson, the unelected governor, didn't do well on the pandemic. He botched the medical marijuana rollout. He's been slow on the Medicaid expansion. And he still easily won re-election, despite the fact that the Democrats had, I thought, a good candidate, Nicole Galloway. So as long as the voters are happy to tolerate this kind of result, I think we'll continue to see it.
Bill, I'd like to correct my fellow founder. We ranked #1 in throwing kids off of Medicaid. So
in what, Ray?
In throwing kids off of Medicaid. So it's not like the first time we were #1. But as soon as I heard that they were going to turn this over to that it was up to the states, you know, to sort of echo what Bill said, you knew this was going to be a problem. And of course, all the local officials will get blamed for it. We also ranked 49th in funding public health statewide among this. If you compare to other states, we're 49th in public health funding. So part of it's you get what you pay for.
I think there's some truth to that, but I also think, guys, that it's been a mess out of Washington. I think we're having trouble getting the vaccines out. There's not enough supply. I think locally, we're not acting with a sense of urgency. For example, in St. Louis County, we just decided yesterday that the mass vaccination site would be in North County at Flo Valley. Next door in Illinois, it's not all that much better. After all, the Chicago Tribune looked at Illinois and found out that of 360,000 residents and workers in nursing homes, just 1 out of 4 have been vaccinated in 6 weeks. So I think all over, I think it's a really bad moment in American history at how little we're able to do.
And you're absolutely right, Charlie. And earlier, before the vaccine rollout, Missouri was, I believe we were better than half of the other states in some of the metrics, according to the CDC. So we are not the only ones that have plummeted since the vaccine rollout. And you're right about Illinois and Governor Pritzker. To me, when I see that Governor Pritzker and Governor Parson, who could not be farther apart politically, they're on the same page in terms of this designation that both states are grappling with at this moment. That tells me that you are also correct about the problem coming from the top down.
Well, and I hate to argue with myself, but I feel like I ought to, just because when we've had Democratic governors, we're still 47th, 46th, 48th, 40, so there's something about Missouri. There just is.
And I agree. And okay, if a state were going to have logistical problems and, get things out, Illinois' thoroughfare through all that is much, much tougher than Missouri's, okay? But what Illinois at least can claim, it's logistical. In Missouri, it's not logistics. If Donald Trump called Governor Parsons tonight and said, like, hey, get on that, I want you to be first, okay? We would skyrocket in vaccines. People will be knocking themselves over. If Governor Trump, oh gosh, boy, that's a Freudian slip. If the former president called the governor and said, put down a statewide mask order, we would have a statewide mask order in 48 hours. That's what Missouri's problem is. We are still paying homage to the false idol of Donald Trump, and we're suffering because of it.
We are. I mean,
a little. This was a ranking of, and I know it's kind of an instant ranking by the CDC, of all 50 states. You can't blame it on Washington that we're the 50th of 50 states. So everybody has the same issues to deal with. I don't know that.
That's true.
Wait, real quick. Washington, when we're talking about administration and Washington problems, you're talking about an administration that changed 8 days ago. Now, we had 4 years, at least 2 plus, to get this together.
I don't think people are blaming Biden.
Yeah, like that. I'm sorry.
I don't mean to. Anyway, not yet.
Yeah, but I don't need to be.
Let's move on, Ray. Let me ask you, Ray, because this is because of the coronavirus pandemic. I don't know exactly what happened here. You can explain it. The House yesterday in Jefferson City did not want the governor to deliver his annual State of the State from the House chamber. So he walked down the hallway to the Senate chamber, delivered it there. I did see a photo. There were some senators in the chamber not wearing masks, a little bit inexplicable. But to me, it could have been done virtually. I think the big issue here is that in the entire speech, the governor only mentioned vaccinations in one line. One line. It should be the big issue of the day. What was your takeaway from this?
Well, that's true. And again, I don't want to keep returning to the other topic, but it's not the counties that they don't have any, they can't get vaccines. So I think that it's important to note that. Interestingly, he wanted his message somehow to be about the great response because he's so unhappy about the 50th ranking and stuff. And how ironic it is that this legislature was basically shut down because of COVID cases. Over more than 20 legislators have gotten COVID, including Andrew Koenig, who, we talked about, who just declared his right to get COVID as if, we ought to start talking about holding some people responsible for this because,
Right. But what about the governor and his state? Does it matter where he delivers it?
It showed how little sway he's got over his own party that the House said no way. And as I understand, it wasn't even an official State of the State speech because they didn't do roll call. Normally, it's a joint session of the House and Senate in the House chambers where they call roll, and it's an official speech for the state. There was no roll call, so it was basically just him talking. And frankly, he doesn't have much to talk about when it comes to.
I thought the most fascinating thing was the quote about Missouri has come through tough times before. There was Civil War, the Great Depression, women's suffrage. And I thought, women's suffrage. I mean,
if you were on the wrong side of that, it was a painful thing. Yeah.
Can I take my turn? The Civil War, and most of the people that voted for him, the Civil War horror was that the wrong team won. Why that was in his State of the State?
I disagree. I do disagree with that one. But I do think I think the bigger story is that in Jefferson City, I think it was yesterday, maybe Tuesday, a rumor got out that there were vaccinations available for the General Assembly and the staff. And so they all ran down to a hotel and they started getting their vaccinations in their arms. And then they found out, oh no, these vaccines are supposed to be for people who work for MoDOT and public safety. And so the lawmaker said, oh, okay, well, we got our vaccines. I guess we were wrong. And it just showed you how messed up everything is in the Capitol, where even the leaders who are supposed to be setting policy, they don't know what the policy is.
But let me ask you this. Do you believe that that was an accident, Charlie?
I don't know. I don't know.
See, I don't.
I don't.
I don't. That's spin.
Really?
But I don't.
I'm with Alvin. I agree. And I tell you, it says all you need to know about these guys, that in defiance of any common sense, they continue to this day. The Republicans in the legislature continue, many of them, not to wear masks, endangering other people's health. And Alvin's right. Soon as the chance to jump the line on vaccines, well, too bad. Now all of a sudden, COVID's real. I ain't thinking. I'm with Alvin.
Okay, Wendy Wiese, let's closer to home. There was a measure passed 15-14 in the St. Louis Board of Aldermen last week to advance a project that would have aerial surveillance of the city of St. Louis with a airplane flying overhead. Where else would it fly, of course? And it would take photos of the city and try and provide evidence after crimes occur so that individuals could be captured and then brought to justice. It was used for about 6 months in Baltimore this year with some improvement in crime fighting. But after it was approved, the backer of the program, the Arnold family of Houston, said they're not going to fund it. And so I think it's probably dead as a doornail. Do you think there's any possibility we're going to have aerial surveillance of the city of St. Louis for crime fighting purposes?
I certainly hope so. And I was wondering about the possibility of drones. I mean, I'm obviously not an expert in this area, but it is something that needs to be explored, because the crime rate already in 2021 it makes your head spin. And so something has to be done. We've all said that at least 250,000 times. But I think that this is there still seems to be some dispute over whether or not there could be funding. Funding has been identified. Nobody's going to mention any names of any individuals or outfits. But I think some type of aerial surveillance has to be explored. And I think we could certainly find the money for it.
Here. And Michael Nydorf should pay for it. And what is the name of the organization? Better St. Louis, not Better Together, but whatever.
Greater St. Louis Inc.
Better St. Louis Inc. Write a check, get it up there, because look, it could serve a viable purpose. And oh, by the way, go to googlemaps.com and put your address in. And there's a picture of the top of your house. Now, mine still has the Grand Am. We traded in 15 years ago. But, it's not like this thing doesn't exist.
I don't think this is a solution. I think it sounds good. This is the same. To me, it's going to take forever. I realize it, but we got to get at the causes of crime, not the symptoms. And this is, to me, this tool, if it was working, so it was such a great tool, would be used everywhere. I doubt that it would seriously dent crime to have. There's some civil liberties concerns about it, but beyond that, it's just not. We're not going to. The kind of criminal justice reforms that were talked to about last June which include addressing the causes of crime, are the way to go if we want to get seriously dent crime. We're not going to.
People don't have any civil liberties, Ray, if they're deceased.
I get
you
that.
understand
I'm just
that?
saying.
I was going to say, I want justice reform, but I want the person caught who harmed me or my family.
I get it. It's just like talking 3 strikes and you're out. It sounds good.
No, totally different.
No, it isn't. I don't think that aerial photography is going to solve crime in the city of St. Louis.
Alvin got wounded. Hopefully just wounded. And the suspects are in a silver whatever.
Headed west on Clay Avenue.
Better to invest resources in keeping Alvin from getting wounded. That's the problem.
I'm shot. I'm on the sidewalk, Ray.
No, I'm saying
I don't have time to think about, oh my God, I wish he had learned to read. I got a bullet in me.
Guys, I just don't think we're going to police our way out of this. And I think we've got
No, I think we owe it to the citizens of St. Louis that if they are harmed, that the culprit is arrested. And if it would drop the unsolved murders, let's look up all the countless unsolved murders in St. Louis. And if it would solve one of them, technically it was worth it. And if it solved 10 of them, it's absolutely worth it.
You need some kind of technology, whether it's drones or license plate readers, video cameras, when you have crime not only out of control, but no chase policies. So people can just drive away as fast as, and you need to be able to follow them somehow, whether it's a drone or, like I say, license plate reading. There's all sorts of technologies, but we got to get with that.
I don't agree. I think that there's all kinds of security cameras out now. The issue in crime in St. Louis is there's too many being committed, and we need to develop resources to keep so many.
All right, just real quick,
Ray, that's a long-term thing. That's
I understand it's a philosophical argument.
And look, real quick, when something happens and the Channel 5 or Channel 2, the ones that have helicopters, are on it and they're following the suspected assailants and they're driving crazy and the police are after them, the one thing that we all know is that that person is going to get caught. And if you could do that for the whole city where people would say, like, hey, that person's going to get caught, then I have to vote for that. I have to be with that. I can't be against that. And I don't live in a city. I live in Kirkwood. And as crazy as Kirkwood is, if
it's crazy.
Yeah, it'd be fine with me.
When I think of crazy, I think of Kirkwood. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic, but keep you front and center, Alvin Reid.
Right.
The junior senator from the great state of Missouri, Josh Hawley, was in the news yet again. This time, he was writing an opinion piece in the New York Post, which by some measurement is the most widely circulated newspaper in the United States of America, and he was claiming that his views were being muzzled. Well, some people think that he's going to actually increase his popularity in Missouri and across the nation by kind of playing the victim card. Do you really think that he's going to become more popular throughout the United States?
He'll become more popular throughout the United States with the people that like stampeded the Capitol and those of that like. Nationally, that doesn't play out. Now, I was surprised by the poll that said nationally he went up and in Missouri he went down. Okay, I get that. But let's talk 2 years from now, and he doesn't have to run, until 4 years from now. There's a lot of ugly stuff that's going to come out between now and then. And it's not helping Josh Hawley. I'm confident in that. Okay, because instead of being the victim, he's going to be the scapegoat because every Republican is going to say when it comes time to run, I'm not Josh Hawley. I'm not that whacked out. Okay.
Well, you can't claim to be the law and order party while you condone breaking the law. And a second Metropolitan Police officer committed suicide after the January 6th incident at the Capitol. So he can try to make this, and you all know my leanings, he can try to make this a free speech issue all he wants. But as your colleague pointed out, Charlie, to Senator Hawley, your colleague Mark Reardon pointed out to him that he falsely perpetuated this idea that there was some surprise coming and that we didn't know who was actually going to be taking the oath of office. He's got to come back to the real sane world if he's going to salvage his political career. He cannot make 4 dead citizens and 3 dead police officers about a free speech issue. It is not.
Josh Hawley's political career is dead with normal people. Okay, the question, and I don't think he's coming back. I think he should be expelled from the Senate. I doubt that they'll do that. I doubt they'll have 2/3 votes, although they're going to make an effort. You watch, the Democrats are going to pursue it. I do think there's at least 50-50 chance that he gets censured by the Senate, and that would be significant in terms of his participation and so forth. I think that has some fairly significant, it's not just a cosmetic thing. And because he did take part in sedition, there's no question about it, or very little, really none. And the issue with him is not his politics, it's his patriotism. And I think that, but I still say that with the people in that wing of the Republican Party that's being driven by the QAnon bus, he's probably, a rock star among that group of people now.
Yeah, I think he'll wear this like a badge of honor, and it's a Republican issue. If the party wants to, dart back toward the mainstream. They'll nominate somebody like Nikki Haley in 4 years. And if they want to continue on the path they are, if they like that, they'll go with either Trump again or Josh Hawley or someone of that ilk. It's a Republican thing.
I don't think Hawley's going to get the nomination at this point. But I think he will be well liked among that group of people.
I think he'll try.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's question.
Well, this spring we have a mayoral contest in the city of St. Louis, Ray Hartmann, and Tashara Jones, the treasurer, has announced in recent weeks that she would like to decriminalize sex work, which I think basically means that prostitutes will not be arrested and jailed for committing the crime of prostitution. And interestingly, others are looking at that, but Kara Spencer, who's running against her, has said that she would be open to examining the possibility of allowing strip clubs in the city of St. Louis. Have you formed any opinions on either of these issues?
Why are you asking me?
Well, you did have the Riverfront Times and all those ads for years.
Well, first of all, I was a little surprised that these are topics they're talking about. I mean, I haven't agreed with them. I mean, I kind of assume that for the most part, most forms of sex work have been effectively and I don't disagree with Tashara, but I think in the real world, they've largely been decriminalized in most places, I would think. I do think on the matter of adult entertainment that, and I felt this way for a long time, that it's just abject stupidity on the part of Missouri and St. Louis to zone adult entertainment 5 minutes across the river. It's great for Illinois. No disrespect to my pals, the former pal, I guess, I don't know if they still own Diamond Cabaret and PT's and Sage, but which is a very prosperous adult strip club, whatever. But it just doesn't make any sense from public policy. It's like, so Missourians and St. Louisans go across the river and spend a fairly substantial amount of money. It just what benefit is?
Well, Ray, you said it's great for Illinois. Are you sure Sage and Centerville are really thriving?
Yeah, Brooklyn? I think. Oh, I know those businesses. At least they always did. I don't know.
Well, the businesses, but what about the communities?
Yeah, but it's a tax dollar.
It's a lot of revenue.
If every tax dollar is golden and they're creating tax dollars, the city, even if they're failing, they need every dollar they can get.
Downtown Kirkwood. Hey, why not?
Well, let's put it this way. We're not that broke. Okay, but I would say this, that the Post-Dispatch said Tashara's plan was half-baked. But unfortunately, I guess the Post-Dispatch didn't know that Kara Spencer was going to come out and say, like, she's open to strip clubs. I'm waiting for the editorial to say that that's half-baked or half-clothed. But it's not going to happen because that is about, hating on her, not the reality of the fact that most even prosperous and successful metropolitan areas have 20, 30 years ago taken this stance. So the Post wants us to be all this, and then the Post acts like we're a backwater when it comes to certain issues. They got to grow up too.
I'm sorry, Wendy.
No, you go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say the half-baked part of it is probably if you're going to have clubs and you're going to legalize prostitution, you need strict zoning. I mean, because nobody wants prostitutes standing out in front of their house or their apartment. There's a lot of infrastructure stuff that has to go on. You can't just say prostitution is legal, and with the strip clubs, I'm all in favor of having some, but have them down by the river and industrial.
Clearly have to do that. You've got to zone them, sure, and you've got to. The other thing is you can't legalize. The city can't
legalize sex. Legalizing the sex trade also, in my understanding, increases the likelihood of human trafficking. Does it not?
Let's be clear.
I'm sorry. I think those businesses are the last things you open before you turn off the lights. And why not?
Well,
why not have jobs like high tech, like Austin?
Charlie,
why do we have to go down this road?
Wait a minute, Charlie. There's a trillion lights. The estimate is there's a trillion lights in Las Vegas, and they ain't turned out one of them. So
ladies and gentlemen, we have the highest STD rates in the nation.
Charlie,
what a great city to have more prostitution.
Missouri is prostitution's not legal in Missouri. She's not calling for it to be legalized. She's talking about, I think she's talking about decriminalization.
Right, that's correct.
Use of police resources. She's not.
It still leads to increased human trafficking, Ray.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Human trafficking.
Wendy, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I have not read you send me something on that. And I would say this, if a strip club opened in Chesterfield, it would be the highest grossing strip club in the state of Missouri. Because
that might be the only one. Okay, Alvin, Reid, 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning for this program. Then we're going to say hello to Dr. Fred Pestello. But Alvin, I was thinking about your dad this week because he had certain opinions on pay raises. He said, don't begrudge the next guy his money.
Don't begrudge anybody his money.
Something like that. Well, I'm paraphrasing. In Jefferson City, there's going to be a pay raise, 2.5% starting July 1st, another 2.5% next year. So the pay for the lawmakers will go from approximately $36,000 to $37,000 and change. What do you think of this?
They haven't had a pay raise since what, 6-7 years ago?
14 years ago.
2.5%. I have no problem with that. But here, when you get your money, think about that $15 an hour, like minimum wage and things like that. You got yours, share it with others. But I don't have a problem with that pay raise. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to vaccines, let Patrick Mahomes skip the line. We'll leave it at that.
Is anybody, does everyone have a differing opinion on the pay raises in Jefferson City?
Well, if it led to better legislators, I'd be all for it,
It won't, but I think Alvin's right. I mean, 14 years is a long time. And
I'm sorry.
Well, the way they went about it was a little bit misleading because the House voted 97-11 to oppose the pay raises so they could get on record, those 97 people did, knowing that the Senate was leaving.
They were going to get them anyway.
The action had to be taken by February the 1st.
That's just theatrics.
That's the same guys that jumped that's the same guys that jumped the line for the vaccine.
Well, that's
who
exactly
aren't wearing
right.
masks. Yeah, who aren't wearing masks.
I do wonder, though, if you can get a quality lawmaker, if you are only paying $37,000 a year, you'll only get somebody who's there to somehow make some money for some cause or themselves down the line.
And Charlie, I agree, but it's such a small raise.
I don't think that's fair.
I don't agree with that.
It's not
really?
fair.
I don't think that's fair.
I think it is fair.
But I think money's a motivator.
No,
Folks,
I don't think it's true.
Dr. Fred Pestello is going to be with us next, president of St. Louis University. Don't go away.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of 9PBS.
Well, thank you for joining us for Next Up. This is where we talk to community leaders and find out what's going on in their world. And we're so happy to welcome Dr. Fred Pestello, the president of St. Louis University. Doctor, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure, Charlie. Good to be here with all of you.
Well, thank you very much. I know this has been a year like no other year, operating a university with all those social interactions during a deadly pandemic. What's the latest at your beautiful campus on Grand Avenue?
So today is the first day back for our undergraduate students and many of our graduate students. We've done testing this week. We're excited to begin again, but life hasn't been what it had typically been since last March. We are doing our research, doing our education, doing our interaction, treating our patients in ways different than we would have been doing a year ago. Like so much of the world has changed in that time, including how we are together this evening.
Alvin?
All right, Doctor. Charlie and I are the two old folks that, have kids in college still at this time. So my oldest daughter went to Dominican University in Chicago. She's a senior. My youngest is at University of Missouri. She's a sophomore. So going back to March and where you're at now, what can you tell the parents of, kids who are come back? Okay. And I know a lot of courses are online, even if you're on the campus itself. But if you had a message to send to the parents of America who have kids in college, what would it be?
So this has been a difficult, nearly a year. It's 10 months for everyone. Devastating for many, and it's been difficult on college campuses. Last March, we pivoted in the middle of March. Almost all of higher education did almost simultaneously. We also did on the medical side to, at that time, complete online learning. And we had to do it like that. So we did it. I was proud of how we did it, but we learned some lessons. And one of those lessons is that our students do not do as well when they're not in community, when they don't have that support around them, that support of each other, the direct support of the faculty. We gave our faculty a week to adjust before we picked up, but we heard loud and clear, we want to be back together. And so we worked over the summer so that we could do that in the safest way possible going into the fall, as did so many other campuses. We began the fall with 50% of our classes face-to-face, although more socially distant, 25% hybrid, 1 day in class, 1 day out, and 25% entirely online. We'll start the spring semester roughly equivalent to that as we started today, and we'll continue to test. We'll continue to have protocols, and we hope that we are able to get through this together in community.
How do you see this affecting your recruitment and your enrollments going forward? Obviously, there's a great concern, understandably, about safe learning and what you're doing today, but obviously this is going to affect, campus visits and recruiting and so forth for the coming semesters. How do you see COVID affecting that, and what are you doing to keep your enrollments up?
Yeah, well, Ray, as you might imagine, we're paying close attention to that. And actually, our numbers for fall enrollments are the strongest they've ever been. Now, I don't have quite the faith in those predictions as I would have in a normal year when we were confident in how we would track those numbers to the entering class. We're doing what we can, obviously, to recruit. Other schools are doing the same. We're hoping that by the summer we'll be able to have more robust on-campus tours, but we are doing in-person tours. The good news is, and I think everybody would be interested in this, is nationally, there is no evidence of spread in the classroom or in the laboratory. So what spread we're seeing is coming from primarily social events outside of the classroom, particularly dining together or going to parties together. That's where the virus is being spread. We didn't have a single case, and we're doing extensive contact tracing in a classroom or a lab on our campus, and that's pretty much the story for all of higher education.
Doctor, let's talk about discipline and rules for kids outside of the classroom environment. I mean, these are college kids, and college kids are going to socialize. What kind of rules do you have, and what discipline have you meted out to kids who say, well, I'm in college, I want to go to the party Saturday night?
Yes, well, what we were clear with our students about when we opened in the fall is, you've told us you want to be together here face-to-face. We want to be together face-to-face. It's incumbent upon you to follow the protocols if that is going to be allowed to continue. As I said, last March, I had to make a very painful decision. It was not an easy decision to make, and it wasn't easy on you, to the student body. If we're to stay here in community on campus, I need you to do what's expected. So we require masks. We require social distancing. We prohibit gatherings of more than 10 students. If students are caught violating the rules or being part of a party, or worse yet, hosting a party, there's disciplinary action. They go through our system, and it goes all the way up to suspension. I'm proud of the fact to say that we were fortunate on our campus. We didn't have a great deal of that. Our positivity rates were low, extremely low. Prior to November, spiked up a little bit, and we were able to bring them down before Thanksgiving when the face-to-face ended.
Because of our close proximity at 9 PBS to your campus, Dr. Pestello, we are all, everyone on the panel is very much aware of the campus police presence, the blue light phones, and everything that you do to secure the safety of your student population, your teachers, your staff. What can you share with our viewers about what SLU has been doing during the pandemic to even further increase security on campus?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Wendy. Obviously, we're concerned about that. We made a number of investments, everything from additional cameras to making sure that we have a strong, robust, in terms of numbers and well-trained set of Department of Public Safety officers. We work very closely with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. And thankfully, our campus has remained safe in terms of violent crime. We do have some crime. It's largely property crime. Not that we welcome that. And we do our best with our cameras, our tracking, and trying to be attentive to minimize that. So we have been fortunate. We've been able to keep the campus safe, and the majority of our students feel that we have a safe campus. It's always a balance on a college campus because college campuses are open. That's part of the joy of being in college. We invite people in for speakers, for lectures, for sporting events. But at the same time, we have an obligation to have sufficient security to keep everyone safe when they are on the campus.
Dr. Pestello, do you ever estimate how many applicants you lose every year because students out there and their parents read stories that St. Louis is the crime capital of the country?
Yeah, Charlie, I don't know that we have exact numbers, but it's a concern of ours. And when we talk to prospective students and their parents, both domestically and even more so internationally, that question is raised because they Google us, St. Louis University, they Google St. Louis, and they read the stories. And so there's the reality, which in and of itself is bad and needs to be addressed. And then there's the perception, which is equally bad. We talk to them about the safety of the campus. We talk to them about our efforts. We talk to them about coordination among the region to try to address this. And we've been successful in attracting a sufficient number of students to come. But yeah, you're right, Charlie.
Alvin?
Doc, I'm not making light of it, but I'm a proud Kansas Jayhawk, and a lot of fans think it's a crime that, Missouri on Tuesday was ranked higher than KU was in basketball. And you had to shut down, for a while. And unfortunately, people look at it and say, like in the SEC in football, people are saying this school had problems, so we were better than they were. And some people are saying they shouldn't be playing at all. So you've gone through it for the last month. What do you say to those that say they shouldn't be playing at all? And what do you say to those that say I can't believe they shut down for a month for this?
Yeah, so thank you, Alvin. For those people who say they shouldn't be playing at all, talk to a student athlete on any college campus. These young men and women live for this. They are competitive and they benefit from the training and the rigor. They're dying to get back on the court. And it didn't only impact our men's team, it impacted our women's team as well. And I heard from the coaches, as well from the staff and some of the players, we want to get back out there. Now, that said, safety comes first. We have to make sure that the players remain off the court and don't exert themselves until we are confident that they can safely play and that others won't be infected. So we're following NCAA protocols. We are in touch with Dr. Eccles regularly in terms of what we are doing. We're blessed at St. Louis University to have the medical school and the clinical practice, so we have experts right here on campus that we draw upon. So I think just like being together for learning, that athletic play means a great deal to those students. And some of them have athletic aspirations and want to take advantage of playing time so that they can best position themselves for what comes next. So we're trying to find that balance in everything, but including athletics, between staying safe and letting them compete. We were down for a month in men's basketball, essentially. We started up again Tuesday against the University of Dayton. And for 25 years, I was a Flyer. And that was a tough loss.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a tough loss. And just as a year before, when we lost in the final seconds of overtime with Crutcher again, sinking a three-point shot.
That was tough.
This time. So, but that's fun. And I know
that was tough.
Billiken fans are passionate, and they want to see us play. And I enjoy the enthusiasm of the game, particularly with the student section. So, this year, I don't think we're going to allow many fans. We're not going to be able to, not that we wouldn't like to, in the stands, but hopefully we'll be back at it next year and the teams will be great.
Well, you're going to go to Indianapolis. You're going to be in the tournament this year. You heard it here first.
Yeah. From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah. Right?
Dr. Pestello, when I knew you were coming on, I'm an old student newspaper guy, so I went to the University News, and the big headline was, "The president should be convicted." And I thought, man, they're mad at you. But it turns out they were talking about Trump. So that was tough. But you talked about what you said to the students. What are you hearing from the student body to you about some of these issues, such as the athletic department, teams playing when they couldn't be in camp? What are the students and for that matter, student newspaper, people like that? What are you hearing from them about this pandemic and how it's being handled?
Yeah, well, first of all, Ray, thanks for making it clear that I wasn't the president they were going after. Students are struggling. They're struggling in many ways. Mental health issues, the inability to have the access to the faculty, staff, and their colleagues that they want. So this is very tough. Clearly, they're paying attention to politics and what's happening in our nation, and our students are passionate about that. Our students are passionate about the Black Lives Matter movement. I've heard from several groups of our Black alumni, our Black students, our Black faculty and staff about needed change, about inequalities, about slights. And so we're very actively trying to work on those, as are so many other organizations. So our students are very engaged in the issues of the day. I think students across the country are attuned to what's taking place and active in terms of getting together and pushing for what they view as positive change.
Bill?
Doctor, a couple of weeks ago, we had Jason Hall on the show. He's the president now of the new regional chamber. I think Greater St. Louis is it. I'm not sure. But he talked about growing the economy, and one way to do it was involving the local universities in programs and getting the kids to stay here after they graduate. Do you know of any initiatives to keep your students here after they graduate?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Bill. And I saw that show with Jason and thought it was very good and perfectly timed given the launch of Greater St. Louis Inc. So St. Louis University being right here, as you know, right next door to you in Midtown Manhattan, we're keenly interested as a research institution, anchor institution, in the fate of the region. And one of the disappointing statistics about St. Louis is job growth has not been what it should be. It's not been on track with some of the sister cities that we track. It's not been where any of us would like. And so we're participating in that effort that Jason talked about, but we're also working with our colleagues at other colleges and universities, one, to make this an attractive place for college students to come, and then an attractive place to make them stay. And what that means is you got to have a job. And so we're one of the founders of Cortex with Washington University, UMSL, the Garden, BJC. Cortex, I think, is one of St. Louis's greatest success stories. And we are getting more deeply involved in that all the time. The NGA, I think, is going to be another area where we can really promote job growth here, because under former Director Cardillo and now Admiral Sharp, they're bringing down some of the barriers where they can in non-secure research and collaboration. So I think you're going to see much greater connection between the universities and the NGA, which means our faculty and students moving forward with the new NGA than you would have before. So we are trying to actively collaborate on attracting talent and then retaining the talent in the region, working to accelerate the growth that we do have.
Wendy?
Thank you.
Dr. Pestello, in answering Ray's question about the student body and what you're hearing from them, you were talking about ways that SLU is dedicated to helping students through these very challenging times when it comes to mental health. And I was hoping that perhaps you could expand in that particular area for our audience and share exactly what you're doing.
So one of the things that we added this past year was online 24/7 phone service where you can call and talk to somebody any time of the day or night. So it doesn't depend on 9 to 5 hours when somebody happens to be in the office. We've consistently increased the staff that we have available to our students. every time I get together with fellow college presidents, face-to-face before, now virtually, we end up on mental health and the mental health challenges that our students are facing today. And nobody's got the answer, but we're all trying to work on it to better prepare them, to better get them through successfully, and then prepare them for what they will face afterwards. So I think it requires more resources and smarter use of the resources that we have in terms of how we're coordinating and deploying our personnel that we have and the resources on campus.
President Pestello, thanks for watching our show with Jason Hall. Had I known you were watching, I would have upped my game, but I will do that in the future. But I think it's known around the land that St. Louis University has one of the top vaccine centers in the United States. Did your researchers have any role in the research or testing of coronavirus vaccines?
Yes, so we were and are deeply involved in the Moderna vaccine trials. We just recently completed the phase 3 trial. We will continue to follow those who were in it. We're very proud of that. We have one of what is called the VTEU, Vaccine Treatment Evaluation Units, one of 10 in the country. It's an area of expertise for us, and we're proud that we could play the role that we've played in helping to address this pandemic.
Alvin.
As far as, you know, the protocol for those, the order of how you would get a vaccine, young people, okay, college age, they're down the line a bit, but what is the thought on your faculty? And I'm just one that believes, like, the sooner you get every teacher vaccinated, the sooner, like, all schools basically could be open again. So is there any effort to try to make sure that the faculty, those who really would be face-to-face with the students, get vaccinated first?
Yes, certainly. So we've been approved as a site to administer the vaccine, to vaccinate people. We have not yet received any vaccine. When we do, we will administer it entirely in line with the state protocols. So we will go through, you know, the first tier, then 1B, 1A, 1B, 1C, and then move to 2. So we're not going to change what the state has required in terms of priority. What we're anxious to do is everything we can to help lobby for and encourage more production, more distribution. As you all know, this erudite group here of broadcasters and journalists, we got to start getting that vaccine in people's arms, and we got to vaccine as many people as we can. And part of our role, I think, particularly as colleges and universities, is to educate the public on the safety of the vaccine, particularly those populations which are a bit reluctant to receive the vaccine, because those populations are the same ones that are being the most decimated by the disease.
I'll volunteer, okay?
Okay.
Me.
Right?
Well, I'm going to look up erudite after a while. I hope what is the long-term impact on your medical school? And it seems to me it's gotten a higher profile for research and so forth, at least maybe than most of us would have known, in terms of it's been in the news, I think, for vaccine research and so forth. Is this something you think is going to impact you in the long term, having been gone through this nightmare?
Yes, and it fits well with our strategic plan. So in my first year here, we created a strategic plan. What we heard loud and clear is we need to do more in terms of supporting research and scholarship. The faculty were eager for that. It made a great deal of sense to me. I was actually a bit surprised that we weren't doing more research and scholarship, particularly funded research and scholarship. So we made that a priority initiative. We invested heavily in that office. We made some critical hires from the University of Chicago, and we received considerable philanthropy to support it. So we've been able to fund faculty initiatives in order to attract and retain young scholars, and that's part of what one must do. It's not only getting the scholar here, but once somebody starts to make a name for herself or himself, then others come after them. And so how do we retain them here? We did an event the other day where we had about 30 of our young scholars. In fact, it was skewed toward young women in the STEM areas, talking about how much they're enjoying being at St. Louis University now because of this initiative, the support they're getting, and the collaboration. We talk about doing it research in the Jesuit way, trying to break down barriers, collaborate more, support each other more, encourage each other more, celebrate each other more. And I think we're having some success. Now, it takes time to build that. We're focused particularly on the NGA and tying into that. And that has implications for health in many areas, as it does for agriculture. So it's an exciting time. That's one of the things I'm most excited about is our research growth trajectory and using that to get back to Bill's point as a way to help stimulate the local economy and retain people in jobs. Bill?
I see Jesuit Hall is closing, and I know you're the first lay president at SLU, and it kind of made me sad to see Jesuit Hall closing, and it's supposed to be apartments for students, so in that sense, it's good for you. But do you feel at all that you're losing any touch with your Jesuit heritage, with all the Jesuit fathers leaving?
Yeah, I appreciate that question because it's so central to the mission, Bill. So let's not start with the headline, President closes Jesuit Hall. Okay, let's everybody be clear about that because I don't need to read that in the newspaper in the morning.
Larry Bondi's successor closes.
Yeah,
oh,
first
no
late
name
president
even.
closes Jesuit Hall. Yeah, that's swell. Jesuit Hall was built in 1920. It was an old hotel, as you native St. Louisans probably know. And in its day, it was magnificent. I'm sure I've been in it many times. I can envision what it looked like back then. It's no longer sufficient for our needs. I am very proud of the fact another priority of ours and a top priority for mine this year is to have a vibrant Jesuit community. Unfortunately, the demographics of all religious orders, including the Jesuits, have declined. But we have a larger Jesuit community, I think, than any current Jesuit college or university in the country right now. We are very fortunate, and we're going to be bringing in at least 4 new Jesuits this coming year. And there aren't that many that become available every year. We're an attractive place, and I think we need an attractive place for those Jesuits to live. So closing down the current Jesuit Hall, those in the hall now are in 2 groups. One is what we call JSLU, Jesuits active at St. Louis University. The other is the infirm Jesuits, elderly Jesuits who need basically substantial medical care. Those Jesuits are going to move the elderly Jesuits to a facility better and more fully dedicated to their health needs. The younger Jesuits are going to move to a building that we are now designing and about to begin construction on in the middle of the North Campus, one that the Jesuits themselves have been at the center of designing. We want an attractive facility that will ease access to the Jesuits and the Jesuits' access to the campus, one where we can worship, one where we can meet, one where we can celebrate and gather with the Jesuits, a facility that's better scaled to the current number of active Jesuits, and one that allows us to do the things we do with the Jesuits, with us with the Jesuits better on campus. The other large campus community that we have of Jesuits is the scholastics. These are young men, 20 to 25 of them, and they are just such, not that my elderly Jesuit colleagues aren't fun, great, interesting, they are so enthusiastic, so energetic, bring so much life to our campus. And so they will continue to be in the West End, Central West End, close to the campus. The other Jesuits will be right in the center of campus. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to work with the Jesuits to do that. I think it will allow us to continue to attract and retain Jesuits in the future.
You have given us a pretty thorough understanding of what this pandemic has been like for you as president of a Jesuit university operating in the middle of a large metropolitan area. How has the pandemic brought you perhaps a renewed appreciation as a private citizen for the SLU community? And how it pulls together in during dark times.
30 seconds ago, Doctor.
Yeah. So I've just been in awe of how we have responded to this because, as I said, it's been tough on everyone, devastating for many. Economic consequences, health consequences, deaths in the family. To watch people come together, and I'm a Midwesterner, and I see the values, and I see how people here, and particularly with respect to our Catholic Jesuit mission, rally around each other, to support each other, to generously give. I couldn't be more proud of how St. Louis University, faculty, staff, students, alumni, stakeholders have responded to this. It's been inspiring. It could choke me up, actually, to tell you the truth.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Next Up. And as we say goodbye, let's say go Billikens for both the men's and women's basketball and all the sports as you represent our area. We sure appreciate the time you shared with us, President Pestello. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Been a pleasure. 9 PBS.
So thank you.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of 9 PBS.